Sounds good.
Hello and welcome to this episode of EduCurious. Today we have assistant principal and he is over IB and data. This is Chance Cook. He's from Lake Wells High School and I am so delighted to have him on the show. So welcome and glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
I want to jump into what you currently do with the high school. What's your role and what's your day-to-day look like?
I am over the IB program. That includes the pre-IB admissions for Lake Wells High School, all the way through the issuing of the IB diploma in their 11th and 12th grade years when they do those programs. And also I head up the data and accountability for the school. So I keep us out of trouble, making sure we're up on compliance and things like that. And then I run data for the testing throughout the year, for ways that we can attack the standards strategically, making the most of our time with the kids, and anything else that might come along the way. Lots and lots of Google Sheets.
You've been in this role for a couple years now. I want to know, a lot of times parents have questions about why go the IB route. So give us the elevator pitch on that.
All right. In the state of Florida, there are some external benefits to going the IB diploma route. If you earn the IB diploma, you automatically get the Bright Future Scholarship, which will cover 100% of the tuition for students to attend an in-state university. That's quite a draw for some. That waives the other requirements of the ACT and the SAT or the CLT scores. You have to have certain score in order to get that. Otherwise, if you're on the IB diploma, that supersedes those. You get college credits for the courses depending on your exam scores. But the real reason to choose the IB diploma is the deeper level of learning. If you are a student who thinks that college is in the future, it is really a college preparatory program. It began with the intent of having a level of rigor that would be consistent anywhere in the world. Any student who gets an IB diploma is held to the same standard, whether you're in the United States, Japan, Germany. It began in Geneva, Switzerland, or if you're in a developing country, it means the same thing regardless. You get a deeper level of learning, college preparatories. When you go to the next level, many times kids will say, their first couple of years of college might even be easier than the IB diploma program was. But what that allows you to do when you're in high school, when you still live with your parents, when you still have that almost the safety net of just a couple different variables rather than when you're off on your own, you're trying to figure out food, you're trying to figure out housing at college. You get to ease into some of those things while you're in high school, set up the organizational skills that you need to be successful. And really, it's meant to give you a strong, firm foundation so that when you go to that next stage, you're ready for it and you're ready to take on higher academic level of study.
How would I get into that program? What time period do I need to be thinking about applying to get into your IB program? Is that something you do in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade? Like, when do you jump in?
So enrollment for Lake Wells High School specifically, if you go the pre-IB route, which is the most common route, it would be a student who's leaving 8th grade applying to come to Lake Wells High School. It is a separate application, but we do not require any entrance exams or anything like that. We ask you to fill out the application. We do look at where the student is performing currently, and that's not for any reason of like gatekeeping or anything like that. Because it is a rigorous program, I don't wish to throw any kid in the deep end so they bite off more than they can chew. We try to have you reading on grade level and performing on grade level so that we can then take you to that next step. If you're below grade level, what that can indicate is that you're not quite ready, and we really wouldn't be doing you any favors by asking so much of you when you get to that next step. That is a common route for students when they're in 8th grade to come on and apply to be pre-IB. You have to apply to come into Lake Wells High School. It is a school of choice. It's very important that we have an application for anyone that enters. It's a separate application. That's one way. You can also apply in 10th grade for pre-IB if you did 9th grade somewhere else and then decide, you know what, that is what I would like to do. Or if you left another pre-IB program from another school and want to come here, then you can apply in 10th grade. You can also apply in 11th grade. The majority of our IB courses are 2 years, so they go over 11th and 12th grade. We do have some that are just 1 year, but if you're going to be an IB diploma student, meaning the full IB diploma program, then you need to come in at the absolute latest at the beginning of 11th grade year in order to be able to meet all the requirements of the IB diploma.
would that put you on a schedule of different courses, additional courses, or how does that look compared to a traditional high school student?
So for the state of Florida, if you are pursuing an IB diploma, you do not necessarily have to complete the same courses that a traditional diploma recipient would complete. For instance, some of the courses that a lot of students may not take if they pursue the IB diploma would be like physical education, or in some instances like government and economics. Those courses are required for a traditional diploma, but for an IB diploma, the way that it works is it's not an all or nothing thing. It's not like I pursued the IB diploma, and if for some reason I fall slightly short, I'm just out of everything. When you finish your senior year, if you complete the requirements of the IB diploma and are eligible to earn the IB diploma, you get a standard diploma from the state of Florida. So what that means, there are separate requirements to earn an IB diploma, but as long as you are eligible when you walk across the stage in May, then you will have earned a standard diploma from the state of Florida. And then you find out on July 6th, when results come out, whether you earned the IB diploma.
Yeah, let's dive into the nitty gritty of that.
So there are two different levels of IB courses. There's the core of the IB diploma, which is something that really sets them apart from other advanced programs. For IB, you have the core, which includes theory of knowledge, which is a course that our students take over the course of the 2 years. And they dive into some of the deep questions of what is knowledge? Who owns knowledge? Why do we accept some things as truth? There are some debates in there. They are well-spirited debates, meaning you learn how to you don't have to necessarily agree with everything that other folks are saying, and you can still exist in the same space. Pretty much the opposite of what you might see on the news. And that's how our kids learn those types of things, which is really attractive if you're a university looking for a student, because there are going to be many diverse points of view at university. And if you're a student who kind of understands some of those things of testing, don't just take things at face value. You learn how to dig into that. Or I did hear my professor say this, but rather than just accepting what they're saying, I'm going to dig into it and see what I think of that for myself. They get to become inquiring and more inquisitive that way, and they don't necessarily accept every single thing at face value. That's the theory of knowledge. That's one component of the core within the IB. Another component is the extended essay. The extended essay, or the EE, as we like to call it in IB, because we love acronyms. Everything in education is acronyms. The EE is in word essay that students do over the course of the program. And it's a research paper on a subject of their choosing, but it's a very in-depth research paper. They choose their topic and then whatever subject that might entail. And then they are matched up with a supervisor where they get one-on-one support throughout that process, how to cite things correctly, how to do research and know that your sources are valid, how to format your paper, and then communicate your thoughts and build an argument, which you will use as you've got more degrees than a thermometer. So, when you're writing through these papers and things, that's really important that you're doing research properly rather than starting with your topic, knowing where you want to go, and then just finding the research that fits your narrative. You're really learning through that process. We've gone over TOK and we've gone over the EE. The third component of the core is called CAS, which is creativity, activity, and service. Students are engaged in things that are outside of the curriculum that interest them, but show that they're a part of their community in unique ways. The most similar thing to this, probably in the traditional route, would be the community service components that students do to earn Bright Futures. In the state of Florida, it's 100 hours that they do for that. While the IB does not require a certain number of hours, we do have hours tacked onto ours just so that we can kind of measure the students are engaged in the different activities. Activity can be things like planning something, planning a project. They do one project, at least one project throughout the course of 2 years. Most students do a project their junior year and a project their senior year. And what that could include is you see a need in the community. For instance, here at Lake Wales High School, when I got here, we had some large planters out in front of the school. And when you come to the school, they were one of the first things you saw. They were right in the parking lot at the entrance. They had grown up with some grass and different things over time. The irrigation that was in them had been busted. If we did plant something in there, it wasn't going to live, and they were overrun with different kind of insects and like that, things like that. The students said, we want to make the front of the school something that's really attractive to people because this is the business card of the school, essentially. Like as soon as you get here, you see this. They decided they were going to gut everything that was in those. We took all of it out, and I was with them every step of the way. It was a blast. We tore out all the old plants. We took care of the insects that were in there because they were the kind that was going to hinder new plant growth. We put new soil in there. We got the irrigation fixed. Now, the kids didn't fix the irrigation themselves. We did bring in somebody to do that. But then we picked out plants that we knew would be low maintenance and then would eventually fill those pots and just be beautiful, and we could be hands-off approach with that. And I'd love for anybody to come to Lake Mills High School and take a look at our planters now. They're absolutely beautiful. But that was a project that the kids completed. Throughout that project, they had creativity because they were planning the project, getting down to what it would require to do that. They did some research in there, which is still creativity. They reached out to a nursery and said, which plants make the most sense for this environment? They're going to be in planters. They will have irrigation, but we're not going to look at these plants after we put them in. And then they had activity, which activity is basically like you're being active. It could be as simple as like you're breaking a sweat. And we're in Florida, so it's not hard to break a sweat. They were pulling those weeds, doing all those types of things. And then there was a service component to that too, because they were serving the school, making it a more beautiful place for their classmates and for the community to see when they come in. That's an example of tying all of CAS in together, but they do many different experiences throughout their time as IB diploma students, and they log those. And then rather than just doing them and forgetting about them, they reflect on the experience, how it's changed them as a learner, how it's changed them as a person, how it interacted with the community. They can even reflect on like what didn't go very well. Like it was tough to organize the schedules of 10 different people to all be there at the same time to work on this. And when we couldn't be together, what were ways that we could still work as a team to accomplish this common goal? And that kind of pushes them. And what that does for universities also is it shows that you're not just a brainiac. Any kid who's taking advanced classes, dual enrollment classes, anything like that shows that you know your book smarts, but this shows also that you're going to be involved in your community. And that's very attractive to people outside of that. And hopefully you do that for the rest of your life, just seeing a need in the community and seeing how your gifts and how you can dive into something and solve that problem for them. That's the core. Those are the three components. It was TOK, the extended essay, and CAS. TOK is a class, but the other two are outside of the curriculum. Students do those. They do have time within school. We have a period called academic H2H. H2H is Highlander to Highlander, meaning you go somewhere and work on the thing that you need to work on or the thing that interests you if you're already ahead of things. They can work on some of those things during that time, but TOK is a class period that they take over the 2 years. The classroom aspects of it include 6 different IB courses that you take over the 2 years. Our common path includes one course that's over 1 year. We refer to those as like our IB electives. Right now we have philosophy, we have dance, and we have visual arts. And visual arts is you create different pieces of art, whether it be clay or it could be paint or whatever. Dance is probably what you would expect. You are dancing. You do choreograph, you do organized choreography for other students. And then philosophy it's more of the regular classroom experience, but it's an extremely popular class because you dive into many of the things that you see in TOK as well, but they study philosophers, they study types of thinking that maybe they haven't seen here. They go into the Tao Te Ching, which is an ancient Asian philosophy that they do. They usually take that class over 1 year. They do have the option to take it another year, but 1 year is all that would be required for those. And that would be a standard level class. Then we have other standard level classes. Many students will take their language B, which is language acquisition. Part of being an international program, they ask that you dive into language acquisition. We have had Spanish since the inception of the IB program, and I'm happy to say that we're adding French this year. We have Spanish and French as our options. We've had pre-IB French for the last 2 years, and now we're rolling out IB French for the first time this year. We've got 2 pathways for that. Some students do take the higher level Spanish class too, but that's usually a standard level class. We also have math, that is a standard level class. Then we have our higher level classes. We have literature, That includes diving into classic novels. They do works in translation, things that were written in another language and they've translated it to English. They do graphic novels. They really look at literature holistically and they analyze the literature more than just reading for comprehension and remembering the main facts. They look at it in a much deeper level. They also develop much better writing skills throughout that time because they're not just reading something and then regurgitating it. They're really diving into it deeply. We have history of the Americas. It's like US history and then take it up another couple levels because you're studying how the history has affected the globe, not just our area of the world. Until this last year, the only science that we offered was biology, but we have since added physics and we've added a class called environmental systems and societies. So if you're going the medical school route, that'd be a great thing to do. If you're going an engineering route, physics probably makes a lot of sense for you. And then if you're going any other type of route, or you don't necessarily know what you want to do, or you do want to go into like an environmental role or something like that, environmental systems and societies would be a good place for you to go. You take those 6 courses, at least three have to be higher level. And then if you do 3 higher level, then you would take 3 standard level courses. You can also do 4 higher level and 2 standard level courses, but between those, they need to score certain points on their exams. And if they get the magic number, then they earn their IB diploma. The most similar thing between IB and AP would be the exam at the end. But also what you could say is the most different thing about them is the exam at the end too. But AP at the end, basically you're showing your mastery of the material. All of the IB exams, except for in physics and biology. Physics and biology have some multiple choice components to them, but there's one part of one paper that's multiple choice. Everything else, you're explaining yourself. Everything. What that does for the learner is you don't have to memorize all kinds of different facts and things like that. You are learning along the way. But what it's really teaching you to do is to explain yourself and then to justify your answers. For instance, in History of the Americas, and really it's just labeled as IB history. When they take that exam, they've got all kinds of different prompts to choose from. And then they choose the ones that they're most comfortable responding to. And then they formulate their essays based on that. And these aren't just quick paragraphs. They're writing papers on these things. Their knowledge by that point and their writing skills are to the level that they could probably argue just about anything by the time they get there. And they're scored from a 1 to a 7, with a 1 being like a failing condition, but a 7 being amongst the highest in the world, like you were in the top earners. To earn the college credit in the state of Florida, you need a 4. When you get a 4, there's typically like one college course that you would earn credit for that class. And then if you get a 5, 6, or 7, you're getting 2 college courses for the majority of them. Now there's a literal articulation agreement that anyone who's interested in can look up the articulation with the FLDOE. And now these are for public state universities, UCF, USF, UF, New College, places like that, public universities for Florida. A lot of the private universities will mirror that, but it is up to the university at that point. The only ones that we can really guarantee are the public. Now, if you leave the state of Florida, you have to look at the specific articulation between that university and the IB. They vary greatly depending on where you might go. But what you will find is that they do recognize IB in the majority of places because it is an internationally recognized curriculum. A 4 is our magic number here in the state of Florida to earn college credit. And the way that the awarding of the diploma works is you have higher level points and you have standard level points that you must earn to get the diploma. The minimum number to earn the diploma on your higher level column is 12. If you have 3 higher level courses and you get a 4, 4, and 4, that has met the requirement for the higher level points. But what's nice about this is while the 4 might be that magic number to earn the college credit, let's say that biology is not my thing. I'm very good in literature. I'm very good in history. And biology may just be the thing that I'm doing because I'm pushing myself and I want to learn and be a well-rounded learner, but I just don't necessarily ever get to that level 4 while I'm at Lake Wells High School. Let's say I slide to a 3 in that one. Well, if I get a 5 in one of my other areas, a 5, 4, and 3 still add up to 12. While on paper, you might say I didn't earn the college credit for that biology course, I'm still eligible for the diploma because I was stronger in another area than I necessarily was in biology. But you could flop that with any of the higher levels. Maybe history is not my thing or whatever. As long as you get the 12 in your higher level category, then you are sitting pretty for that. For standard level courses, we'll go with the 3 and 3 examples. Let's say we have 3 higher level and 3 standard level. You need a minimum of 9 points. Let's go through the experiment again. If we went 4, 4, and 4, we still have 12 points there, then we are good. We've got our diploma. You could actually even go 3, 3, and 3, and you've met the requirement for the standard part of the matrix. Now, to earn the diploma, you need a total of 24 points overall. But you notice that if I have my 4, 4, and 4 for the higher level and 4, 4, and 4, then I'm good. But if I do 4, 4, and 4, 3, 3, and 3, I'm not at my magic number for 24. You need to earn those points somewhere, some way. Even though it may not be a failing factor for the standard level, you need to get the 24 points overall. There are points that you can earn as a student by having a certain score in TOK or theory of knowledge and having an extended essay that is superb with a maximum of 3 points. If you got an A and an A on those two things, then you would get 3 additional points. But what we have noticed is that the students who tend to get the bonus points for TOK and for EE have already earned the diploma through their exam scores. Kind of when I coach the kids, I tell them don't really count on the bonus points to get you across the finish line. Really focus on your classes and try to get the points there. And then if the other points fall, then so be it.
If I was taking a biology class, for example, could that one biology class count as part of my IB track? And if I tested a certain way, it be an AP class? Like that's where I've also heard questions like, does it cross over? Is it one class? Is it a separate track like that?
It wouldn't be an AP class. It would still give you the college credit, whatever college course that would be articulated. In that case, it would be like a biology course with a lab to it. And then if you get a 5, 6, or 7, then it would be 2 college biology courses with 2 labs. You could get 8 college credits from getting a 5, 6, or 7 in your biology course.
So then a student taking an AP class would most likely be a traditional student wanting college course work separate from IB.
We only offer one AP class at Lake Wells High School, and that's AP World History. And in order to take that class, you are a pre-IB 10th grade student. We have woven AP into our IB track that way. But that's the only AP class we offer here. We do have some students who might take them online some type of way, but those are few and far between. Typically, a student would choose to go a dual enrollment route rather than do the AP. But there are some, like we have students who like MIT might be their goal because they really want to go into these advanced engineering schools. We find ways to meet the needs of the learner and get them where they would like to be. The reason that I really like the IB is because it opens doors for students. I know that I run the program, but I'm not so married to the program that I'm all about that. And I have to fit every kid in this box to get them across this way. If what we're doing helps you get where you want to be, and I can make a pretty good case for if you want to do some great things that IB can really set you up for that path. But the learner is what's more important than anything else. If we can find a way that the pathways that we have for you can open more doors for you or give you more opportunities. You might work a little bit harder while you're here, but on the tail end of things, you're really going to see the benefits of that long term, especially with the long term learning, the setting up the skills of, I know how to do research, I know how to organize myself. Time management is honestly one of the things that the kids get coached on the most. And we have an IB counselor, so a counselor that's just for the IB students. And they spend a lot of time like helping them organize things, setting up a calendar, like things that we take for granted, looking at a planner. If I have this assignment that's due here in 3 weeks, that doesn't necessarily mean I don't have any homework tonight. I probably should be working on that in bite-sized chunks. It's not an all-nighter the night before where I'm doing work that's really not up to my level of me as a student. Like I can do excellent work, but it's not something that I can just throw together right at the end. That type of thing is what really helps the students in the long-term goal.
I want to hear a little bit about you and your leadership journey from going from an educator to counselor to an assistant principal and what you're doing to always keep learning and always do better.
I mentioned before that I'm not from Florida. I ended up going to Warner University when I chose a college to attend. I grew up in West Virginia. My dad and mom both attended Warner University. And my father, actually, when he graduated from Warner. He went to a church in West Virginia, and he's still at the same church that he left Warner to be the pastor at. So it's coming up on 35 years. He actually just finished up 35 years at the church. Warner, being a Church of God school, was one of the ones that my parents said, you should definitely explore this route. And then when I saw education as a possibility, and Warner happened to have a fantastic education department, those things kind of slid together there for me. And when you're 18 years old and you have the opportunity to move to Florida, you do it. I moved down here. I studied education at Warner. It was fantastic. They taught me the basics, the foundations. But as great as in-classroom learning might be, being in charge of a classroom is very different. When I left Warner, I actually graduated a little bit early so that I could take a position at Polk Avenue. And I went into a fourth grade math and science classroom. I'll never forget that I started on October 31st, which is Halloween, and they were a wonderful, memorable, challenging group. But I am thankful for that experience because they taught me that being present, just showing up, was quite a bit for these students. I walked into the classroom on day one and I said, "Hi, everyone. I'm Mr. Cook. I'm going to be your teacher." And I'm not joking. They said, "Are you sure? Are you sure that you're going to be our teacher?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be your teacher." The next words, a student said, "We'll see." And I was like, I'm 5 minutes into the classroom, and this is my introduction. After that day, I realized why they were so apprehensive, but I made it. When I came back after Christmas that year, I saw a real change in the kids. Because you think about this, they had so much turmoil in their life. There's a lot of turnover of just maybe adults aren't consistent for me. And by simply being consistent with these kids, I kind of won them over. Now, I like to use humor and things in the classroom like that, but just being there and actually following through on what I said I was going to do, it was like daylight and dark. After Christmas break, they were like, "Oh man, he really is going to be here for real." After that, I finished out that year, but I think it was 5 years I did in fourth grade math and science. I loved it. But then at that point, I was kind of looking at maybe going the administrative route. I went to my administrators at the time. It was Gail Quam and Shay Hicksonbaugh, who I'm very thankful for. They were tremendous leaders to learn from. I had the benefit of that here with Chris Reams, too. I caught him at the end of his career at Lake Bells High School. I just kind of picked up these like nuggets of truth throughout the way. So, but I went to Gail and Shay and I said, "Hey, I'm looking at potentially being maybe in administration." First thing I asked was, "Do you all see the qualities in me that could lead to a career down this way?" And they said, "Yeah, I think that you probably should pursue this." And then my next question was, "I've only done math and science and I've only done fourth grade. Is there any way that I can get a position that might include the other aspects of," at this point, I was thinking that I'd be an elementary administrator, and I hadn't taught reading outside of summer school. I had taught some summer school reading and been successful with that, but the full year spectrum, I hadn't done that yet. And I said, "Is there any way that I could do a position where I'm teaching all subjects like elementary usually is?" And they said, "Yeah, actually, we have one opening up in second grade. And then you can get the primary experience and you can get the all subjects at the same time." And I said, "Perfect, let's do that." So I did 1 year in second grade, all subjects. And I was the only one on my team that did all subjects. And what was kind of cool about that is I was kind of the bridge between the math and science team and the reading and social studies team. And I could see where everybody's thinking was. And that was tremendous. It was honestly my favorite year in the classroom. I loved second grade so much. And then what came next, I did not expect. I went through Aspiring Leaders Program, which we went through it together. And when I finished that up, I was like, okay, like I was itching to go to whatever might be next. And I started applying for some different positions and they were falling through. Like I was not becoming an assistant principal right away. But when I interviewed here at the high school, while I didn't get the AP role, one of the guidance counselors had left for an AP role somewhere else. And I was kind of reading the tea leaves of, well, the guidance counselor's office at Lake Wells High School, once you're in that role, I was looking at all the different schools, and it was like every school had somebody that used to be a guidance counselor. I said, well, this makes, and they actually kind of mentioned that to me also of like, this is where you learn like the ins and outs of things, the how we actually get kids to graduate. I decided to jump into the guidance counseling role. And that lasted a grand total of about 3 months because my AP that was over the guidance department went on to a new position somewhere else. And I applied for that position. And that's how I kind of slid into where I am now. One thing that I really appreciate about working here at Lake Wales High School is we have certain things that we're in charge of. Like I'm over the IB program and I tend to look at data, but none of us are in such a silo that we only do that one thing and that's entirely on us. We really are a team. And I appreciate all the administrators that I work with that when we want to work on something together, we do that. And we kind of restructured the way that things were so that we could work to our strengths in different areas. And when I first became AP, I was over the facilities and IB and data. I have some other like tertiary roles that I fill as well, but I was able to learn from Mr. Reams while he was still here, while he was over the facilities, and I could kind of learn the ins and outs of that stuff. And then when Mr. Reams left and we hired Mr. Schick, facilities fit his strengths very well. And I was able to slide into a slightly different role, picking up some other things. And he took over facilities and discipline. Now I still work minimally with facilities and that kind of thing. But what's really nice about that is just working as a team. Whenever we go after like big projects, we all put our heads together and work on those things together. That's kind of how I arrived where I am now.
You told me right before the show that you're working on your principalship, which is a cohort with a lot of other principals and APs in the charter system. Tell me about that and why it's so important to build capacity within our charter school system.
It's going to be about a year long, and we're going to work on different things about like if you're the one who's in charge of the school, these are the kind of skills that you need along the way. But as far as building capacity, it is important to never get stagnant or to think that you know everything on where you're going. Even if it's an area where you've been working on it for a very long time, it's important to continue to read, to find people that are doing it somewhere else who might be doing it better or maybe you want to find somebody who's not doing it well and figure out how to avoid those types of pitfalls. I did not know what I did not know because I was so new to this. I went from second grade to high school, and we've seen Billy Madison, but it wasn't quite that fast. But it was a big change to go into that, and it was the truth. I didn't know a lot of the things that I needed to do. I went into it just being willing to say to people whenever they ask me a question, like, I don't know, but I will dig into that and find the answer. It's just going to take me a little bit of time. And then over time, you kind of pick up on things and learn different ways of doing things, but constantly learning, remaining in humility, understanding that you're probably not the expert in the room. There's probably somebody who knows more than you do. Some of the people that helped me the most in my first year in this role were the IB teachers because I had the benefit of working with some of them that had been here since the program began. They knew way more about IB than I did. While on paper, I was in charge of the IB program. I really leaned on them and went to them of like, hey, here's something that I'm looking at. What does this mean? How have you done this in the past? And honoring the things that have been done very well and making sure that you don't fix it if it ain't broke type scenario, as we would say in West Virginia. Let the things that are going well continue, or if you can optimize them slightly, but don't go and gut something that's been producing the results that you want them to produce. Continuously learning, being willing to ask people who know more than you or people that your decisions affect, going to them and saying, hey, if we go this route, or I want to run something by you, what do you think about this? And many times what I find is that you might be thinking like, oh, I'm about to execute whatever this is, this change. And then they bring up a component of that that you never thought of. And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I talked to you. I didn't even think that this would affect that in that manner, that kind of thing. There's a verse in Proverbs that says, wise is the man who has many advisors. That's the Cook translation. It's not exactly the same, but when you go and you ask many different people, especially stakeholders, bringing in parents, bringing in students, bringing in teachers, bringing in other admin, support staff, the media specialists, the paras, the secretarial staff, and then you look at the big picture on how this decision doesn't just affect this little area that you were trying to fix. You might be creating an issue somewhere else. That's really important to look at things that type of way.
And what are your hopes and goals for the next couple years within the high school and in your career pathway?
My hope for the high school is that we can get to the coveted A school mark, which we're on the path. Became a B school last year. And because I am the data nerd, I have reason to believe that we'll remain a B school, but move up a couple points. And we have a pathway that we're going to get there, but it's a gradual increasing the learning for students. That's my goal for the high school. I would also like to say that I have no intentions of leaving anytime soon. So I hope nobody thinks that, oh, he's going to the principal thing, he's gonna dip out right away. That's really just so that, like the IB path does for our students, I want to have as many doors open as I possibly could. If the Lord suggested a path that maybe I don't even perceive right now, that I would be equipped to be able to go ahead and take advantage of those opportunities. And that's how I was able to kind of get where I am now, of just taking advantage of opportunities while they're in front of me, because I was able to graduate from Warner early because I had relationships with staff there. When the opportunity came to potentially take the position at Polk Avenue, I went to them and said, hey, is this possible? And they said, it's not going to be easy, but this is a way that we can do that. We were able to jump into that. Fast forward to the educational leadership program. I did that as quickly as I could, and then got into aspiring leaders right away, and just kind of seizing those moments as they come up. This is another way that I'm kind of seizing the moment and don't even have intentions of leaving. I really enjoy it here. I love the culture of Lake Wales High School. When I left Polk Avenue, I loved working there so much. I was honestly a little nervous because the culture there was so welcoming and it was such a team minded atmosphere that I was kind of worried when I came up here. And I'm not kidding, within like a day, I was like, they're like that here too. That's why I've been here and happy for the last 3 years, and would like to remain here as long as it makes sense for me to be here.
We've got new leadership coming on to the charter school system itself. What are some of your hopes and dreams of how our system can work more cohesively and collaboratively with each other?
I am very excited to have Mrs. Conrad Peters to join us. I like the experience that I've seen on her resume at the very least, how she's been kind of like from the ground up type leader. Like she's done from the classroom to the school leadership to the district office leadership. That's encouraging, somebody who's been there and done that type thing. Her role was something like Office of Advancement with the previous school district. That's encouraging to me because I see us at a crossroads. I think we are a very high functioning system as is, but we could be an exemplar system if we had the right pathway in front of us. And I think the people that we have are the right people. Just having the leadership to take us to that next level would be a real blessing. I came in when Dr. Jackson was here. He was in my classroom. I saw him in my classroom regularly, had a good relationship with him. Dr. Radolfich, he and I were on good terms and things like that. We can go to that next level with somebody who's willing to build the relationships, to understand the culture of Lake Wales and see where our niche is for education here in Lake Wales specifically. Creating a cohesive system of schools rather than schools within a system. I can see some benefits to that, but I'm really just excited to have some consistency and to say that we're moving forward and everybody's on the same page. And I'm very encouraged for the future of the Lake Wales Charter School system. I think that we're really like primed to do some excellent things.
So, when you are not running things up at the high school, what do you like to do outside of your career, outside of your job?
When I'm not running things at the high school, I enjoy running. Some people may have seen me running around Lake Wales with a stroller. My son, Raleigh, likes to run with me. And one thing I did not realize is how difficult it would be to push a stroller for the miles that you use different muscles than when you're just running on your own. I almost crippled myself at the beginning. You get tight in areas that you weren't tight before, and you had to learn how to re-stretch and stuff like that. But I enjoy running. That's something I do. I do savage races. I've done a couple of those. I've gone as far as a half marathon. I have aspirations of doing an ultra someday. We'll see. Not right now. My miles have been cut down a little bit just with the season of life that I might be in, but love to run. I enjoy working on my house. We just put an addition on. Actually, this last weekend, I spent trimming up a mango tree behind my house, and I I'm kind of one of the weirdos that likes manual labor. I use that to like turn my brain off. And although there's a lot of thinking that goes into that too, but it's a different kind of thinking. I enjoy that kind of thing. Um, Hanging out with my family. I like to go on trips. We do lots of cruises. My wife and I love to cruise. It's like a vacation where you don't have to worry about anything. The food's taken care of, the entertainment's there. You just go and be pampered. We travel even outside of cruising. We're flying up to West Virginia here at the end of the week, and different things like that.
Are there any closing thoughts or things that you would like parents or community members to know about your school or you that we might not have touched on yet?
I think Lake Wales High School is a great place for any kid to learn, even if you're not interested in being an IB diploma student or even an IB student at all. But not all students who take IB courses are pursuing the entire diploma. You can take them as a course candidate, meaning just a course here or there. But if you come here, what you'll experience is a culture of, we have a saying here, you are your brother's keeper, meaning we don't just worry about ourselves, we worry about the community here. And it's really a special place where students take their learning. I mean, you have some who maybe care about it more than others, but you care about the learning of the school. Most students are here for the reasons of, I'm trying to get to that next stage. And the staff really, really care about the students. I believe they're here for the right reasons. The support staff, the secretarial staff, I happen to be the one that they tend to go to when they have questions or things like that. From the time you see the front door till you walk across the stage, just know that when you're at Lake Wells High School, you're loved, and we really want to see you reach your goals. And if there's a way that we can help you achieve those goals, then we'll see if we can make it happen.
Excellent. Well, I enjoyed learning more about the IB program. That was something I was not very familiar with because I attended Lake Wells High School long time ago, and we just didn't have access to as many of the wonderful things as you have going on now. Thank you for enlightening us on that. Whether you're a teacher, parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.